Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I've had a few months to process my epic blindside. So
I was
not
gonna,
fun to relive it, but it's okay. Here we are.
I was gonna say, it must have been like an out of body experience to be watching last night's show. How are you feeling today?
You know what? I was kind of like almost like ready for it. You know what I mean? I knew it was coming, this big moment. Everyone's gonna be like, what the hell, guys? So I was like, all right, I'm ready for it to be done and sit on the jury and enjoy this spectatorness of it. Obviously, I wish I made it farther in the game and I was
All
very stunned, but I kind of like this has been like looming for a while. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to
right.
watch myself, forget my torch and whatever, and think about how that was gonna be edited. So a little bit of relief today to have it over with, to be honest.
Now, in your goodbye message, you mentioned that you were one steps too slow. Can you elaborate on that? What do you think went wrong as far as your game went?
I mean, I think for me, like in that like exit thing, what I'm sort of referencing in terms of like, oh, I had this bad feeling was I
Right,
just knew that the second someone figured out what was going on,
right,
like in Bello, like I was in trouble because I was in a good position. You know what I mean? Like I had been in the middle and it sort of worked out for me. A lot of people were wanting to play with me, which is like sort of like a blessing and a curse at times. Like I feel like because I didn't go to tribal council before the merge, like I didn't really get to draw lines in the sand with some of my allies, and that
right.
makes it really hard to move forward. I think if I'd taken out Bruce, like Katora is thrilled, like things would have moved differently. So I feel like that's sort of where I feel like I came up a little bit short. And my biggest regret, obviously, is not targeting Drew at the six split vote. I like tried a little bit. I floated it. It did not get a lot of bites. So I ended up being like, all right, my priority that day was making sure Kendra didn't go home on a Bruce idle play because I really wanted to move forward with Kendra. I wanted to sort of keep Bruce because I knew we were probably going to lose Caleb. So that's where
Right.
that I was like one step too short. I feel like I just wish like I had, if I was going to be a threat, I should have like, maybe try to swing a little harder at that six split. But it's hard when you don't have like
Right.
your allies. Like I lost Brando at a vote I wasn't at. I lost Caleb at a vote I wasn't at. Like those are my two like real strategic partners. And it's just, sometimes it doesn't shake out.
Did you get a sense out there? Because at least I am from watching the show that there was a shift on the island and that it was basically Bello against Reba.
I like there was like a little bit sense of that, but definitely not like, I think the Reba group did a good job of
Right.
sort of, smokes. I think like like wanting to vote out Jay. I was like, what? Like that to me was looking at like, I was like, damn, like so there is some fracture in this group. And it
Yeah.
felt a little bit believable because my experience, and because if you look at old Survivor, like seasons, especially New Era, it's like you come into the merge a lot of times this cross tribal alliance does form. And so I was like, I want to be
Yeah.
in it because my group is already fractured, and I could see sort of the writing on the wall that like eventually this is not going to work. Like there's too much animosity between certain members of my alliance that it wasn't really going to move forward forever. So I thought there would be some cross tribal thing at one point. I thought Austin would be targeted at some point just for being like this huge threat, but I didn't know
Right.
we had another idol. He's very well insulated. There's a lot of information that I wasn't privy to, and I think that was like a good move by Reba to sort of kind of hide what was going on. Also, you have like an unlikely duo in Austin and Drew. Like, they don't really look like they would be guys, you know what I mean? So it's a good move.
Now, much was made of your relationship with Bruce. And looking back, would you have changed anything? It kind of seemed like, even if you were guilt by association, you didn't have many choices to pick from as far as like your support system and who would work with you, right?
Yeah, I mean, sort of the thing was like everyone on Bella wanted to work with me, but then like when I got to the merge, like definitely met with like more resistance than
Wow.
I was used to. Like, but I did have some relationships with like my relationship with Emily. That's why I'm sort of like slighted in the tribal council against her because we had worked really hard to try to save Caleb together on the Shot in the
Yeah.
Dark night. Like we had built some trust there, and me and Caleb, obviously, he was one of my closest allies. Like that was sort of our dream was like, okay, let's get Emily, let's make something, and it didn't pan out, unfortunately, because Caleb got targeted so quickly by Bruce. I'm just like, I'm trying here, man. You know what I mean? But I
How
really thought that I had, Emily was in this position where she's like this last one standing or one of the last Lulus. The way she had been presenting herself in the early game, it seemed like she would be a self-interested player who would maybe go back and forth. And so I was like, if I can get Emily logically, maybe, I can work with her. And I was just
yeah.
sort of running out of options at that point. You know what I mean? I needed someone to let me in.
Yeah.
And so I had to sort of like explore those things because, at least in my mind, because, you know, I didn't really have I didn't think I could take this whole Bello alliance all the way to the end of the game.
Right.
There's too much friction already going on was my perspective on it at the time. But
Now,
I think you asked about Bruce. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked.
it's okay. Um, you mentioned before about you had an idea of tricking Bruce out of his idol. Tell us a little bit about that because we didn't really see much of that on the show, and it sounds like
No, this was my personal pipe dream, and like what I was thinking about doing
yeah,
was I knew Bruce needed to go at some point. You know, I mean, it was great that he was so loyal to me, and that's why I have such a
right,
hard time cutting him. And I think it ultimately, like, there was a possibility that if I knew I was going, that he would maybe play his idol on me, which is, why I didn't want to flush his idol last week. But I I basically was like, if Bruce is gonna go, he has to be blindsided. He
yeah.
has his title, so he has to not play it. I may as well try to get it. And he had mentioned that he was nervous about knowledge's power, sort of generally. And on the island, it's not really on the show, but me and Dee had this like friendship, and I think
Yeah.
it was sort of like a game recognized. People were calling us like the threats, the women threats, especially after the
Oh,
polls. Like, so that was sort of a narrative that was building. I think winning after the challenge, it kind of like skyrocketed that. And
yeah.
so there was conversations between us that were really just like, hey, like people are looking at us like maybe we should both stay here. Like let's sort of look out
Right,
for
right.
each other. I think you can kind of see that in like the initial hesitation for Dee to vote me out with that group, that conversation with Reba. Obviously, I think, they make the right call ultimately to take me out, but I think that's where that bit of hesitation came from. And so I thought it would be believable if I told him, hey, Dee has knowledge is power. She wants to take your idol. And he told me that he wasn't really willing to give it to Jake because Jake was kind of nervous that day and he wanted
Right.
to rather giving it to me. So I was like, great, this is awesome. And so that I had two sort of roads I could go. I was like, I could let everyone dogpile on Bruce, play the idol, and take out Austin and get the amulet.
Yeah.
Or I just let Bruce walk out without his idol. Hopefully he's not like, screw you, Kellie, on the way out. Or even if he is, I was like, I'm already making a big move at that point. Like the target will be on me, but now I have an idol and maybe I can use that idol to get Austin out. That was sort of my like pipe dream moving forward. Obviously, that's a big dream. Not but I think that there was a possibility that, I could pull that off. We'll never know.
Now, now, obviously, you don't get to see everything that's going on behind the scenes. And last night we saw Emily rat out the female alliance. Were you surprised at that? And how serious was that alliance? Because we didn't get a sense of like whether everybody was all in or not.
I'm honestly, I mean, I would love an all women's alliance. That's like my
Yeah.
dream. But I don't think anyone sitting in that shelter thought that was real. Like that was definitely like, I mean, I wanted, like, I think we saw me and Drew sort of express the same thing of like,
Yeah.
well, if I can kind of use this to make a move that I want to do, then great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and I knew I needed to find one or two little things like people to sort of pull into whatever. So if whoever wanted to do that with me, I was open to it because I
Right.
didn't feel like I was going to get Katora, Bruce, Kendra, Jake, and me all on the same page all the time. I was definitely worried about that. So I was like, if I can get like a Dee to work with me or I can get an Emily to work with me, like I was trying to sort of figure out through building personal relationships
Yeah.
who could be that for me. And so if this is a way to sort of do it, and maybe we do have a united vote here and we vote out Bruce, then maybe I can make some moves. Like, the game just opens up if like a bigger player goes home. I think like probably will after me. We'll have to see what happens. But I was like, if Austin gets targeted or Bruce, like maybe there's some movement here for me. So that was sort of my, I like options. So I was looking at all of them there.
Now, a couple more questions. Uh, obviously, they film hours and hours of footage, and we only get to see like a small portion. So, you had mentioned your relationship with Dee. Is there anything else, or that you wish fans would have been able to see about your journey on Survivor? Is there a moment? Is there strategy? Is there something that you wish fans would have got to see?
There's a couple things. I think first thing that comes to mind is like there's so much strategizing at early Bello. Like it was
Yeah.
crazy. Like because we were all you see, I think we have a bunch of self-interested players on Bello. We're all trying to win. And there was a lot of back and forth. Me and Brando in the middle, and we were like round robining with everybody every day. Like, I feel like I played so much Survivor in those first 6 days, and like none of it even mattered, which is crazy. But I think one of my favorite conversations, a clip of it made it there, but when Caleb told me the story of
Right.
Sabaya burning the idol, I mean, I was just like, no, like it was like such a funny moment. We were like in the back of the forest. I was like, what? Like, I was just like so flabbergasted. It was like a really funny conversation. So Caleb and I always say like we wish that whole thing made. I was glad a little bit did, but I think that would have been a really fun moment to sort of just see me like this. We hadn't found the idol at Bello. No one ever found it. I had
Yeah.
no context of what it was, and then Caleb's like, "Here's the 70-step idol that Sabaya had." I was like, "This is crazy. It's crazy."
Now, as a jury member, you know, obviously you can't say who you voted for, but you have a big, you know, decision on your hands. As you were going through the process of deciding who you wanted to win, what were some of the things or the aspects that you were weighing in your mind when you were thinking about your final decision?
I mean, for me on the jury, like there was no doubt that I just wanted to reward the person who played the best game.
Right,
So if that's someone who took me out, like that's totally fine. If it's not, if they did, you know what I mean? I'm literally just going to look at who do I think, played the best game, who turned it on at the right time. And then I'm also definitely looking for people in Final Tribal being like defending their moves and like, it's
right.
coming out swinging and being like, this is why I play better than this person. And hopefully being able to have that level of respect with each other that they can come into Final Tribal and really and sell what they did, because I want to hear about the stuff I didn't see and
Yeah,
then make a decision based on who do I think played the best overall game and who set themselves up at that end game to win. And so that was really all I was looking for. So I think everyone thinks I might be such a bitter juror because I was so like, what the hell, guys. But I said in my pregame stuff, like if I'm gonna go out, I want to go out with a bang. Like it's
yeah,
kind of an honor to be blindsided, and so I want this to be a great season. It is a great season with a bunch of really good players that I think that came into the merge and stuff. So it's really dynamic and fun, and so that's what I was looking for, like really dynamic, good gameplay, big moves with a reason. I would
right.
say.
Well, thanks again for taking the time to talk to us today. You were one of my picks to go really far, so I was
You know
devastated
what?
last.
I lost a lot of people's. I feel so bad. Like people would come up to me and be like, "I put money on you." I'm like, "I don't know." At least I
Well,
can stop lying about that.
oh, you know what? Like I always say, maybe your survivor journey isn't over just yet. You never know, right?
I will
So,
be back in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me? Second season?
well, take care. Have a good day, and thanks for talking again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
All the best in the future.
Thank you.